Hello, my name is Rae-Ann, and I'm your host from Guild of Life TV. Today, I've got a very exciting interview to present to you, and that's Sujata Tiwari. Sujata is an author and a coach and a friend of Guild of Life TV. Welcome, Sujata, to Guild of Life TV.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Rae-Ann. I'm looking forward to our conversation, which from the past, I know that it can be pretty awesome.
Thank you so much. You have so much to offer. I want to dive right in. You wear so many hats, Sujata. What I've read is you're a mindfulness teacher, a mental health advocate, you're a leadership guide, and an author of at least two books. What part of all of this, which piece of the pie is lighting you up right now? What's exciting for you in your present life right now?
It has always been, and including now, it's when I can help somebody, when I can impact a life. It can be a small thing, it could be a big thing. But the fact that I could help somebody, make somebody's day by just simply encouraging, for me, my job is done. We go through so much in life and nobody really cares. We say, "How are you?" But do we actually mean, "How are you?" Because what if the answer is fine, or, everything is good, instead of saying what we are taught to say? If we say that, okay, it's not good today, what then? And I've done this exercise and I've seen that people will just disappear virtually and physically because they don't want to dive in and be a part of your whatever you're going through, right? And for me,
True.
my mission is that nobody should feel alone. And if even a smile makes somebody happy, you don't know what the other one is going through, right? But if you genuinely make somebody smile or be happy by just asking, you know, what's happening and can I do something for you? Can I do something for you is not something that people say generally. So that is, I would say that the mental health advocacy and the, just being there for people and mentoring or just having conversations with somebody, for me, that's the most important thing.
That's beautiful. Sometimes the most simple things can actually be the most impactful too, can't they? And mental health advocacy today with, the internet has become a very toxic environment, and our post-COVID world has been very challenging for people to navigate. So the simple blessing of being open to people must be very rewarding for you.
Yes, it is.
So, I also have read that you've got a background in criminology, psychology, nutrition. So you have a really very unique and holistic approach to your mentoring and teaching. How do you bring all of these perspectives together when you're working with people?
So interestingly, I don't know how many people give this a thought, but criminology, psychology, they are the basis of when you deal with people, whether you have the degree or not, but it gives you an insight to the people, how they think, how they behave, and all that. Everything is not always something like, very drastic where you have to land up in the court or in the jail. In our daily lives, there are so many white collared, so to say, just for an example, people with,
Okay.
criminal bents of mind. Or there could be people who are highly toxic. They might be very well placed in society, but how do they operate? How do they, go about their daily business? If you observe carefully, then you will know what they are doing. Simple things like you may be running a business, but you may not be really an ethical business person. Or you could be a normal person, but you could have some tendencies which are very dark, you know like for
Right.
example, when you have domestic violence. Okay, now
Okay.
people get abused, they get beaten up and all that, but they don't complain and they don't tell the world. So for example, just to give you a small scenario, there's a couple, they are well to do, they go and hobnob in society, dinners, lunches, everything. And unless you look and observe carefully or you're even mindful of it, you won't see the signs. You won't know that somebody is being beaten up at home because
Okay.
the person knows how to beat you up also. So sometimes, you will dress, like, for example, if it's a spouse, and I'm talking of in the female manner, because mostly they are from there, but not
Certainly.
that there's a gender bias here. If you have a bruise on your physical self, you will always cover it up. You can just simply do it by wearing long sleeves,
Right.
right? If there are some things on your face, people cover it up with makeup, to hide certain bruises. If at all
Certainly.
it will get discovered also, I mean, somebody might ask what happened, or something in your hand or in your face. What will you say? You will say things like, oh, I fell down, or, I was cooking in the kitchen and I just burnt myself.
Right. There's a shame.
So it is something that people do normally, but unless
Right.
you see carefully, because you might see just by a glance or look as to how the husband is watching your response when somebody asks you this, or you can just see a slight awkward stiffening of the body language. Like I always
Certainly.
say, we over tend to analyze and see tonality and body language as a normal, which we shouldn't do always, because just by having your arms crossed doesn't mean something. It could just mean that you're comfortable in that pose, or it could be,
Of
the
course.
room is very cold because the ACs are sometimes make the room to be like Siberia, not really
Certainly.
aircon. So, you if it should not be so much that we see, but a lot of us are trained, oh, you cannot. I mean, you look at this, and I don't believe when COVID happened, what happened? We couldn't see each other, right? We could only hear
Right.
each other. Then what? Then how did we function? We functioned, right, without seeing each other. Of
We
course, you
did.
might be still having, your ear tuned to what's happening in the background and, what you're trying to hear. But if you take away all this and just listen to somebody, just figure out the essence of what they are saying, we will truly be empathetic listeners.
Right. Right. You have to be open to hearing what's
Yes.
said and what's unsaid.
Exactly. So criminology and psychology actually are good tools to figure out how people act and react, and you can figure out things for normal everyday life. It doesn't have to be like profiling a criminal who's, say, with real background. Okay, you murdered or you stabbed somebody or something, which
Right.
that you can leave it to the professionals like the police and all. They will go and say, okay, this is the injury, this is the the exact where it happened, the blood spatter, what it denotes. I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of the bent of mind you know
Right. Of course. Of course. Now, I'm guessing that your background in criminology and psychology, a lot of it might come from your book, which is deeply personal, called Against All Odds. Can you tell me a little bit about your book? And what was the most surprising thing you've discovered about yourself personally when you went through the journey of writing that book?
Okay. So
I know
first,
this is a sensitive topic,
no,
so
it's nothing
I
for
appre
me. Nothing
I
for me is
appreciate.
no, nothing for me is sensitive now, because you have to be open to for people to respond, to be open. You know,
Right.
that is what I do, because if you talk of raw and if you talk of authenticity and integrity, then you should be first not appearing, but you should be first as a person embodying those things. Then only will somebody in front of you will have the courage or will feel comfortable enough to share their authenticity. It works both ways. So you cannot put on a facade and then talk to somebody and say, oh, please tell me your life journey. So I should
No,
share my life
this is
journey
true.
for others to get inspired. So, against all odds, which I will say, first of all, if if one has not read the book, is that I wrote the book, but the journey was not written by me, and it was based on my spiritual experience. So, during the worst time of my life, I met God in Barcelona, and which is covered in my book, and the angels. And that led to a sequence of events which landed me as becoming an entrepreneur in Singapore. It landed me in opening a business from scratch. And it landed me into writing the book when the court case finished and lockdown happened, because I was meant to write the book. And that is what has happened in Against All Odds. But the most surprising thing that you're asking me, that when I wrote the book, was that how everything came to me at the right time to write the book. Like doctors have asked me, did I write a journal? And I said, no.
Right.
So I said, why? So they said, because your book is so detailed. And I think I discovered then that we humans lock things in our brain, just like as we have a computer. But when they say, do you get triggered and all that? Triggering, or, suddenly the past or things come up to you, is when, like the computer, you pull up a file, right? Which may be there for ages, but you've not really looked at it. But when you wanted it, you pulled it out, right?
Right.
Same way
Right.
in us, I think in us humans, we have everything, we bury it, and not necessarily we have to revisit all the pages. But when we want to, we can go into that. So that's what I discovered, that I actually, when I set my mind to it, I can do things. And it took me 7 months nonstop writing that book. It's not funny. I used to write from morning to night, and I almost went
Wow.
blind. But everything came crystal clear from age 10 onwards to write the book. So, which means that if you want to, you can do it. And I think I do many things, but I discovered that if I set my mind to any project, I can do it.
I think just to clarify a little bit, what you did was turn one of the worst tragedies that a person can go through into a triumph. I just want to expound a little bit that there was a horrific crime with your daughter, and you took that and fought the judicial system in India, yes?
Yes.
And that's what this book is about. So I don't want to downplay the exceptional amount of work and courage that it took from you to accomplish that. So that's amazing.
Actually, actually, that it was the focal point to write it. But if you go through my book, I have covered it all except for being murdered. So, so the Sujata that you see in front of you, like you're not born courageous, you're not born resilient. That happens when life happens, and when life happens, it depends on the decisions you take at life-altering moments. So, whether it was starting my career, whether it was facing bullying, harassment, or workplace discrimination, or anything of that sort, it all happened because I always faced it with courage, with resilience, but it is built over a time. It's not like, okay, I was born like that, so it happened. Yes, you may have the seedlings, and you may have the inner settings that you will rise to the occasion, but that will
Right.
also tell you when something happens. Like even today, if somebody says, what would you do in such a thing? I will always say, honestly, I don't know. Because when the time comes, that's the time when I take a decision. I can't pre say, okay, I will do this and I will do that. What if when the time comes, I freeze, or I decide
True.
that, okay, I cannot do this because of multiple things which might affect the situation, right? Sometimes
Right.
we may want to do things, but we are unable to do things, and we have to take a back seat. We can't always face forward like a soldier, that, okay, now it's battle time. In the battle time, sometimes it's actually prudent to retreat and wait for another day. You know that there's a saying, no, you, what? You don't fight today because of the tomorrow that you will have, something like that, that, like,
Right.
live for another day. So that point of time you might not do what you feel to do, because another day might be a better situation. when you can give it all.
Right. That's very wise. Um, you have a second book
Mm.
that's feels a little lighter and certainly way more creative called The Book of Whimsical Musings. I love that title, by the way. Um, now, tell me a little bit about that book, and I'm interested, was that book kind of a way to balance the heaviness of your first book?
Okay. So I'm
Or
glad you asked me this question because it shows you have a discerning mind. And I will see to it that I will give you a copy of that book. I'll send it to you.
oh, I
Book
would love that.
Book of Whimsical Musings, as you have rightly discovered, is about creativity, total creative. But I will not take the whole, uh, what do I say, uh, the whole credit for that book, because I would like to put it this way. I may have contributed to certain stories in that book, but actually the
Okay.
book is written by my son.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting. Okay.
He is a philosopher, he's an author, he's many things. He's one of the most talented person, but who prefers not to engage with society, which is sad. But that book is all about short stories, essays. I mean, you can think of any topic in the world and it's there. He's even written a sitcom in that based on his kind of a character. It's
Oh,
really
that's
good. I'm just waiting for a television producer to put it into TV. But yes, so if you think my book is this thing, his book is also equally raw and equally more so honest that book is. Just to give you a small example, like he wanted to be, in a group of people who delve into philosophy, like the professors and all. But he didn't
right.
want to go through it the normal way our society tells, no, that you have to first do your graduation in a certain subject, then you do your master's, then you do your PhD, right? He
Right.
wanted to be in the PhD level without doing this. So he wrote a statement of purpose to all the universities across the globe. And he said also that you might say no, which I'm prepared for, but there's no harm in trying. That's what I've always told my children. There's no harm in trying, so you must always make that effort. Of course, they didn't give him that space, but that's what he has even published the statement of purpose. That philosophy is not something like the normal stream of finance, accounts, or any other subject.
Mhm.
It's about the way of life, and the way
True.
of life that he leads is like a true life example. You must lead by example, is what I'm saying. But he has written that book, and he, of course, very generously added my name to it. And I keep telling him, but he has said in the book, and he says it now also, that whatever I learned from you.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come as any big surprise to me, to be honest, after speaking to you a few times now. Um, that's lovely. You must have a very lovely relationship with your son.
Yes, he
That's,
went and met one Yale professor and asked him questions on philosophy. And
yes,
he introduced me to the Yale professor as this is my soulmate. So it's very rare to have a child who bonds like, to that level. But
that's
if somebody understands me through and through, is he is the one.
that's lovely and must be so rewarding
Yes, and
daily
some of
for
the
you.
things that I have achieved, I give the credit to him, whether it was encouraging me to write the book, whether I became a podcaster, it was all his idea. So he keeps doing things quietly, but keeps seeing that I move forward all the time.
That is amazing. You do lead, you do move forward and you lead with authenticity. Um, Now, I've read a bit of you talking about breaking barriers in involving with authentic leadership, and I was wondering what that means to you in everyday life, breaking barriers and
And
leading.
You know that in society, we are told to conform to the diktats of society. So anything you do out of the extraordinary is breaking a barrier. For example, people do not wish you to be present for, like you're supposed to do only this and not do anything outside of the box, right?
Mm.
When I was a housewife, and I decided to start my career after 13 years. The world would tell me that I should not go into it because I had nothing. I had no resume, I had no work experience. So, how was I even thinking of going and doing a job?
Right.
And I decided to go because I have only one life. And if I have an aspiration, I should try, right? So
Sure.
I, so I went and got my first job. Now, here's a question which I ask people, and I'm going to ask you. A woman who has never worked and who has got a simple bachelor's degree, and she does pick up the courage to go and ask for a job. What job do you think she would have asked for?
Something in retail, maybe admin assistant or secretary. That would be my guess.
Yes, and that's the guess of across the board. Something secretarial, admin, or, clerical, or at best even in the HR department, right?
Right.
No, I didn't ask for those jobs. You know what job I asked for? I
I'm dying to know.
I asked for a job in sales and marketing of computers. So you see, it's unheard of that you would actually pluck up courage, to go for a random interview, which was actually the guy had finished his interview process and he was going to leave. And I actually persevered and impressed upon him to give me 5 minutes because I knew I didn't have anything much to offer, right? 5 minutes is also long term. And
Right.
he said, to throw me off, he said, okay, I can, if you want, you can come up to my room while I'm packing. Now, that also is an unheard of thing. Why would you go to a guy's
Yeah,
room while he's packing, right?
right.
I, wa-
Yeah.
I took the challenge and I went and I just asked him straight and simple that I want a job in this because that's what he had come down to interview people from a different
Right.
city. And the interview was very short. I think that day I learned that I have something called confidence. And he
Mm.
just said, okay, I can give you the job, but you'll have a boss who'll be a guy and he'll be much younger to you. And I said, I have no problem. And that's how I got the job.
Wow.
So,
That's amazing.
so that is breaking a barrier because you didn't go through the normal kind of thing. An interview is listed in the paper, then you go and apply if you are qualified enough. I was not qualified for anything. Even the secretarial admin, what you say,
Right.
may involve some qualifications, but okay, they can give it to you at a stretch, right? Okay, you can stand
Right.
in a store and probably serve customers or something like that, but
Right.
not for this kind of a job. So breaking barriers is all my careers have been without degrees. Now journalism again without a degree. Counterfeiting, anti-counterfeiting, again without a degree. Neither was a retired judge, lawyer, cop, but I have delved into these diverse kind of situations, or you can say workspace, without having the so-called degrees and certifications. That all the certifications that you talk to me about criminal, that's been after I wrote my book. It's during COVID times when I had a lot of time and I decided to enhance what I already was practicing. It's like, first
Right.
you get the degree, then you work. I did it
Right.
the opposite way. I first worked and then got the degree. So, it's
If
like
we
that.
can just take a step back at something you said that I wasn't aware of. You said you worked in counterfeiting?
Anti-counterfeiting.
And can you tell me a little bit about that? That's very
Yes, yes.
diverse and
Yes,
interesting.
that is very diverse. So when, after 5 years of journalism and I was getting a little bored and I wanted to switch, so I told people that, I'm looking for another change. So through contacts, the chambers where you have all the business owners, you have all the products, any product that you can think of, they had a brand protection kind of a platform where it
Right.
was to deal with counterfeiting that was going on, whether it's
So like
soap,
consumer goods,
consumer FMCG. So
okay.
whether it is your soap, shampoo, salt,
Purses,
petroleum, anything, you can think
right?
of all the brand names that you know, they were
Yeah.
all under that. And they approached me that would I like to, work on this platform. Now,
Wow.
mostly this is a male dominated, very, very niche kind of a platform where
Very, yeah.
ideally a retired lawyer, cop, or judge would probably go into it. Here was
Right.
a 5 feet 1 inch lady who said yes, because I have never known myself to say no. I'm very bad at
Right.
saying no. So I said yes. And that's how I became an investigator overnight. I used
Like,
to go with the help of the police. I used to conduct raids on the counterfeiters. I used to
wow.
investigate, and that investigation could be sometimes not even to do with anti-counterfeiting. It could do with people who want their employees to be investigated for something. So I
Nice.
became an investigator. I conducted raids. I talked to ministers how to, try to change laws. I went into this whole thing. So the reason why I did this later on, that's why I say about the book. If I had not done all those, when my daughter's rape case happened, I, as a mother or as a housewife, may not have taken the decision to fight the case. But
Right.
because of this, I knew the importance of forensic DNA. I knew the importance of time to conduct those things. And so I
Right.
could take that decision, however hard it was, however, it was profound that, okay, I'm going to court, right? That itself is a this thing. But at least I knew the logistics of how to do what to do in such a time, because the
Absolutely.
decision to go to court is not easy. I have not
No.
found any mother till now who said I would do it, because they've all said we wouldn't do what you did, because it requires a lot of mental courage, financial space, and everything. And if I had
Absolutely.
not met God, if I had not started my business, how do you think I would have gone to every hearing for 6 years from one country to another country? Where would I have got the money?
It's crazy. You have referenced meeting God in Barcelona, which just, as a phrase, sounds beautiful. It sounds like the title of a book, actually.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell me a little bit about that experience? That sounds
Yes,
very interesting to me.
yes. So, like I like to go, and it's very interesting because I'm not born Catholic or Christian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
However, I have always had leanings towards Christianity from childhood. So when I go abroad, I always make it a point to see what all I would like to see and do. One of the things that I always like to go and see is the churches and, things like that.
Right.
They're very architecturally beautiful and peaceful, and I resonate. So when I was going to first time to Barcelona, I heard about this place called Montserrat. It's a pilgrimage church for Christians, but people from all walks of life actually go to Montserrat.
Okay.
It's that inclusive and welcoming as a place. And I said, okay, I'm going to go there. So I went there, and I resonated with the place, and I wrote some prayers. They have a book where you can write your prayers. So I wrote prayers. That time my son had not got a job. So I said, the usual what people will say, no, give, get my son a job, sort of kind of thing. And I downloaded some hymn songs into my laptop, and I came
Mm.
away. And I stopped by in Thailand for aromatherapy. You've heard of aromatherapy?
Yes.
So I got a reading done, and this lady said, Sujata, you're a very wise old soul. You know
Mm.
everything, but the thing is that you give so much that you don't keep anything for yourself. Even a light bulb needs to get recharged. So can you do some meditation? I said, okay. So I started doing some meditation. And when I used to sort of close my eyes or just meditate, I used to see three things in my mind. One is I used to see angel wings carved on stone. The other, I used to see myself looking down from a hilltop. And the third, I used to see myself wearing red boots. It made no sense to me. So I just went with the flow. Okay, things are popping up and what to do. And so I used to do that.
Right.
Just shortly after that, my son got a job. So I thought, my prayers are answered. But
Mm.
God had a different lesson to teach me. And with the with the when my son got a job, the children were in India, and I actually was talking on Skype to my daughters and telling them that their brothers got a job and stuff like that. Very happy, and
Yes.
so I've got two daughters and one son. So my one of my daughters, was into dance. She was a dance teacher, and
Nice.
he was going out for a birthday celebration very nearby to where we lived. And I don't know why, I just told her, do you need to go out tonight? And she says, I have to. I said, okay. The thing is that in the early hours of the morning, my other daughter called me up to say that we never checked that she came back home because it was so nearby. That was one night I actually slept. Normally, I will see that everybody goes home and is back, and then I go to sleep. That night,
Right.
I didn't sleep, and I regret it till today. But the early hours of the morning, my daughter called up because my son, who used to walk the dogs, he found my daughter in the lobby unconscious. So we didn't realize she had not come back home. And that was when, the rape incident happened. But
Right.
what I'm trying to say is that the previous night I was happy because my son got a job. Next day,
Right.
what happened, right?
Mhm.
So this, when it happened, the decision to go to court was the most important decision that I made in my life. And
Right.
after that, like people say, oh, what happened to the survivor? What happened to the girl? They never ask what happened to the family.
Mm.
The family gets affected. And that is when the world ostracized us. And I started seeing strange things happen, like the songs that I had downloaded on my laptop. You remember I told you that used to play
Yes.
by itself. So I took it as a sign that
Mm.
I meant to go back to Barcelona, Montserrat. And we were not in India, we were in uh, Indonesia actually. And there I had befriended a Spanish chef. And I told him the entire story. And he says, if you want a meeting with the Archbishop, I can arrange it. I said, no, I have already a meeting. So I'll ask you for your help if I require. He said, okay. Then he said, why don't you go to this monastery and speak to this modern thinking priest? You like talking to him. I said, I'll do that. And this daughter of mine, the elder one, she does tarot card and angel card reading. And whenever she does angel card reading, it works for me because the three cards that pop out are Archangel, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. If you know about these angels and, you know, tarot. And
Okay. Hmm.
so I said, okay. So armed with that, I didn't tell my children that I'm going. Only my husband knew. And my husband had become very, very sick. Because
Mm.
if you bottle up some things like this, it's going to affect your physical
Yeah.
thing. And it's not as if, men are taught to cry or to express. So you just don't walk into office and say, oh, this happened, right? So you have to go through the grind and you have to pretend everything is normal, which takes a
Mhm.
toll. And so when I decided to go, I didn't tell my kids, but my daughter called me up one day and said, Mom, are you going somewhere? I said, no, why? So she says, you are going and not telling, just to tell you that your angels are going with you. That's the message I got. And
Hmm.
my husband, who was very sick, he said, if I manage to board the flight, I'll come and join you. And he managed to board the flight and he became perfectly all right. He could eat
Hmm.
his meal without going to restroom, and the person who got off the plane was totally fit and fine. So we went to Barcelona, we went to Montserrat, and I couldn't find the place. And I was getting irritable, and my husband said, you're in the main church. Why are you getting irritable? God wanted you here. But I
Mhm.
said, no. And then one lady came just out of the blue, and I just babbled to her in English because Spanish is a language which I don't know. And that was, a stumbling block. And I told
Sure.
her, and she says, you won't find the place because it's not open to tourists. I'll take you there. She took me there. It's right behind Virgin Mary's altar. And there was a priest standing there with a book, and he said, Sujata from Singapore. I said, yes. He says, please go in and pray for as long as you like. It was St. Joseph's Chapel where I was supposed to be. I sat down, the bell started ringing, the hymn started playing, and I looked at my watch. It was exactly 1 o'clock where I was supposed to be. If that's not a meeting with God, what is? But I just wept and I told God, I said, okay, I get your message. Whether anybody loves me or not, you do. And that is what I say. It was a meeting with God. How else do you explain this? But I forgot to mention, no, not forgot. Now I'm coming to the next part. So when we came out, we decided to go to the caves, which we had not gone earlier in the earlier visit. And this time
Okay.
we went. And guess what did I see? I saw the angel wings carved on stone, which I used to see in my meditation.
Wow.
I'm like Steve Jobs, just connecting the dots. And then I said, okay, let me go to the monastery, which my friend had said. And I went there and I discovered it was the hilltop that I used to look down from.
Oh
And
my goodness.
and when I told the priest the whole story, I finished with my daughter's angel card reading. And I thought Catholic priests may not really subscribe to such things. So I said, you
Yes, true.
right? So I
Yeah.
said, "Are you thinking I'm mad?" And he said, no, it's Providence. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the only monastery in Spain where the three archangels are pictorially depicted. Would you like to meet them?
Oh my goodness.
So I went and saw them and I came down. And last, before going to the board the flight, I went to the shoe store where I'd been earlier. And the guy recognized me and said, oh, you're back. I have something which you might like. It was a pair of red boots.
Uh, I
And
was going to ask where the red boots came in.
spontaneously, I just, without any thought, I just said, okay, I can't keep coming to Barcelona to buy shoes. Why don't you open a store in Asia and I'll run it for you? And he gave me a card and said, why don't you talk to the owners? I talked to the owners and I got franchise rights to open my shoe store.
Oh my goodness.
If this is all not as part of the higher powers plan, then what do you think it is?
Yeah,
Because of that store which I opened, I could go and attend all the court hearings in India for 6 long years.
wow.
It's a different thing that I used to sometimes wear adult diapers to court because I used to suffer from stool incontinence. But the financial bit that I required was because of the store. And look how beautifully it closed. It closed during COVID times when the case finished, and I had nothing to do but to write the book.
Its purpose had been served.
Yes, its purpose had been served. Oh, now tell me, if that was not a meeting with God, what was?
That's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful story.
And when I say I'm a global citizen, this only proves because even my meeting with God was in a different country, right? So if I say I'm a global citizen, I've lived in different countries and all that. And you can see my meeting with God was also in a different country. So,
Right. I still think Meeting God in Barcelona sounds like a beautiful
yes.
title for a book. Now, clearly, you've told me many stories here where we've seen that you've faced bias, you've faced discrimination. You've seemed to have turned most of those challenges into lessons. What advice would you give to somebody today who's feeling very stuck in adversity?
That this is the advice I give because I said this in the book also. Every trauma, every tragedy is actually a lesson and it builds your character. You in the moment think that that is the toughest thing and I can't do it, right? It's natural for people to feel like that. But what if you just tried and took that step? How do you know that it will not be a turnaround to your situation? Because not doing anything or sliding into a situation where you give up is not how you will ever achieve that peace of mind. Let me put it that way.
Right.
And building your character to face whatever comes your way, unless you take that decision, because it's easy, right? It's like inmates who come out find it challenging, then they say it's better to go back to prison. At least you get your 3 meals a day, you have a roof over your head, and you don't have to do anything, right? But in our situation, in our lives, if we just give in and if we just don't do what we need to do, take that bold, courageous step, then you're not going to deal with the situation. And then what happens? That's how baggage piles up. Because one thing, because throughout your life, you're going to have some situation or the other. The key
Right.
thing is you always have a choice. You must exercise that choice and make a decision to face it, to make an attempt to try it. Okay, if you don't succeed, you don't succeed, but at least you tried. And
Hmm.
sometimes your trying can make you feel very good and liberated because you got the result. You might think that you didn't get the result, but what if you didn't? I give you a small example. When I was
Please.
married, and I was trying to please my in-laws because they didn't like me and they're not approved of the marriage. So, you go through a lot of cultural things that you must follow. One of the things that time back then was that when the baby is born, you have to put that what's that thing called? That eyeliner that you put, it's of made of lead.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so they used to do that. And when I became a mother, I used to, you don't have a manual how to be the best wife, mother, daughter,
right.
anything, right?
Right.
So
It's the
I,
first time you've done it, right?
first time you've done it, so it's a hands-on learning, right? And
Sure.
so I, read books and all that as to how to deal with babies and everything. And one of the things that I came to know was that the leading cause of blindness, one of the leading cause of blindness in India is because of this lead thing that people used to put on the
Right.
baby to make the eyes look bigger or more, pronounced.
Right.
So when it came to my first daughter, and this was told to me by my mother-in-law, that's when I decided to pluck up courage for my daughter and say no. Till then, I was saying yes to everything, whether it suited me, not suited me. But for that time, for my daughter, who's going to fight, right? For that baby, somebody has to take a stand. So I took
Of
the
course.
stand and I said, no, I won't do it. And they were very upset. And they said that, we did it for our children. Your husband also went through this. Now, God always gives you the ammunition to deal with things. My husband, from standard 7 had, or even lower, he had thick glasses
Oh,
because he couldn't see very well. And
right.
this happened. So I just told, it just came out. I said, yes, but my husband wears thick glasses. As you can see, what happened to, what you putting that.
Right.
They kept quiet. They didn't like it, but then they let go. So, see, if I had kept quiet and I'd done it, God knows if my daughter would have bad eyesight or whatever, following in the traditions. But I took
Right.
courage. And after that, it was very liberating because I could say no going further to other things. The first time is difficult. Like even for
Right.
childbirth, first time it's difficult. Maybe when you have multiple pregnancies and deliveries, it might become slightly easier. Not that with 3 children, I will say it ever becomes easier. And I always gave a tough time to the doctors and nurses. But I'm just saying that, you need to take that first stand. This I'm giving as a very small example, but in every stage of life, when I've had these challenges, I have decided to be myself.
Right.
No, like you said, what is the one thing you would say? I would also say to the audience that if you can listen to this song, Be Yourself by Chris Collins, Audio Slaves, you will know what I'm saying. It exactly tells you how you be yourself. Because
It goes
all that you can do in a situation.
it goes back to you being speaking about authenticity, right?
Yes.
It comes full circle, right?
Wilson. Yes.
Um, Another thing you've touched on a little bit is mindfulness.
Yes.
Now, that word has become such a buzzword these days. People throw it
Yes.
around without a whole lot of genuine meaning to the word. How would you practice personally mindfulness? What would you talk to
Okay.
me about mindfulness?
Yes, so mindfulness, very right, is a buzzword, but people don't even understand fully when they say it, what is the meaning of mindfulness. My
Right,
simple thing in mindfulness is any communication that you have with anybody is going to make or break a relationship. Okay? Whether it's at home, whether it's in the workplace. What one needs to do, first thing and foremost, is before reacting, before reacting, before responding, you need to think. Suppose, to give you an example, somebody is very bad with you, is having, you could be a boss, screaming at you or putting you down or something. Sometimes you don't have to scream also, right? And
Right.
are saying things which is going to make you feel terrible. Now you have a choice. You can just react and, either go on the defensive or you can go in the offensive, and the situation is going to spiral out. What if you don't say anything? What if you went total quiet? You
Mm.
listen and you just walked away. The gesture of walking away is also a response. It's not a reaction, it's a response which will hit the other person hard. Because just imagine you're screaming at somebody and the person just looks at you, doesn't respond, doesn't react, and just walks away. How frustrating it would be, right? That you could
it's
not
it's
disturb.
powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful, right? Then think about it and then respond, because
Mm.
that is not called reaction, it's called response. There's a difference between react and response. React is when you do without thinking, mindfulness, right? But response is with mindfulness, when you think over it. After the situation has cooled down, then you can respond by either going back, by either writing something instead of speaking, because if the person is not going to listen and nothing is going to get into the head, you might as well
Right.
write a note. They will be forced to read the note and do whatever. They might not even respond because
Right.
it has gone into them and they don't really know how to respond. But
Right.
that is the mindfulness that one. And sometimes you don't respond at all by any means of communication. You just walk away from the situation and you don't say a word. It's the most frustrating thing that I've seen, and I've practiced it all the time and most of the time. Sometimes I also forget and I may react, but most of the time, count till 10, don't this thing, and think over it. Sometimes don't respond at all.
So mm,
You can only humiliate me if I allow you to do so. Yes, I cannot stop you from talking, I cannot stop you from doing any physical thing, but I can stop by not choosing to take it on. It's going to
absolutely.
hurt. In private, it might hurt you, but the world does not need to know. The world will only see, okay, this person did not say anything, and will get even more upset. Like,
Right.
I'll tell you for this mindfulness, another analogy that I give. When an elephant walks down the street and the dogs bark, does the elephant stop and bark back at the dogs? No. He just ignores and keeps walking on. Or
Right.
if I give another example, it's a bright sunny day and you walk out and you're walking on the street and suddenly there's a downpour of rain. You were not prepared for it. You neither have an umbrella or a raincoat. What will happen? You will get wet and you will probably
Mhm.
go and take shelter and you will dry up. All that is there. But momentarily, you will get impacted by that sudden rain, right? You didn't ask for the rain, but it happened to you and you did
Right.
get wet. So that is the moral of the story, that things will happen, you will get
Right.
impacted, but don't let it impact you outs, for the outside world to see.
Right.
And your
Right.
healing will be much more better if you just tell yourself, that's not to do with me, that's to do with the other person. Maybe the other person is toxic, maybe the other person had a bad day, or maybe that's just who the other person is. It's got nothing to do with me. And that's why I write in the book and say, if you start listening to people and doing as per what people think of you, you'll get split personality disorder. Because today you're good, tomorrow you're bad. You
Right.
Somebody might say, oh, you're so good. And the next day, somebody you might meet and say, oh, you're like this, you're like that, and be nasty to you. So, are you going to live up to this one's expectation or that one? No, don't live up to any expectation.
Mm.
Just show who you are by your actions. You can fool the world by words, but you can't fool by actions.
Right. Absolutely. Now, it occurs to me you spend an awful lot of time giving of yourself to others, and
Mm.
obviously you take a lot of joy and satisfaction out of that. But I need to ask you, when you're not writing or guiding or mentoring to others, how do you like to personally recharge? What do you do to take care of your own self?
My way to recharge is either be in the nature And if you can't be in the nature, my way to recharge is with animals. So this dog which I have is like
Mm.
stress buster, is the one who will give me unconditional love, loyalty, apart from my son. But
Right. Yeah,
that's how I
obviously.
recharge. You be in the company of your close friends who will always look after you, who are always there for you. It's just the thought that that if you call them, they will be there. For example,
Right.
like I'm everybody's 2 a.m., 4 a.m. friend. So the other day somebody asked, but Sujata, you talk to all of us, but who do you talk to? Like you're asking me, like
Hmm.
who do you talk to? And I said, good
Yeah.
question, because I didn't have an answer immediately. Because immediately the answer doesn't come. But when I think about it, then I know that there are some people who are there for me. So even
Right.
my family in various degrees, they are there for me. you know every action does not have to be the same kind of a thing, but intrinsically I would say that yes, I am blessed to have you know some good friends and the family to support me, and of course my little puppy, who I think of as a four-legged child. So
What you've mentioned the new puppy. What's the puppy's name?
Mishti.
Mishti.
He
Um,
actually is the she's listening. Mishti is actually the puppy, the dog I had earlier, who was
ah,
named Lucy, and she always wanted to come to me to Singapore, and my daughter never allowed. So what happened was, when she was dying, she had cancer and she came back from the hospital, and I
mm,
called her on Skype that time. And I told her, I said, Mishti, I don't want you to stay one night longer and suffer. Please go. This is exactly what I told her. I said, please go and come back later to me in Singapore. And you won't believe it, she was gone the next morning.
mm. Aw.
How do you explain that? And this one has the exact demeanor, exact this thing. The breed is different, but her personality is like that. And she's truly devoted to me, which people can't figure out, because she follows me even to the bathroom. She is just totally, totally the kind of dog I wanted. Like I wanted a dog who was totally devoted to me, and I got that also.
That's perfect.
So I
I
named Mishti again. That previous one was named Mishti, so this one is also Mishti.
it might be reincarnation, yeah?
Yes, reincarnation.
That's a beautiful story. Um, let's just wrap it up. I just want to ask a final question, and we're certainly going to post all of your links. I know you have a whole bunch of stuff going on, including a great podcast. Um, well, before my final question, why don't you tell me a little bit about the podcast? We haven't touched on that yet.
So the podcast, it's a good question, because you see, writing can be very tedious. Okay. And in today's world, everything is about the eyeballs, or, the listening. People are always listening to things on the internet or stuff like that. So I decided, okay, I should do a podcast. And why the podcast is, it's because it gives a platform. My podcast gives a platform for people to share their journey and their story, which they have never done before. So I'm giving you a platform to take the courage and to share your life journey by talking about it. And why? Because somewhere, somebody listening will be inspired to take that courage if they are stuck. Like you asked me earlier, right? If somebody's stuck, what do they do? It could be
Hmm.
anywhere in the globe, but what do they do? So they need some kind of a role model of inspiration. And when there are different journeys, different stories, and different traumas and tragedies which people have overcome, that is the inspirational thing which somebody listening somewhere will get the courage. So I'm offering that place to people to come forward. And also, my guests have said that it's very therapeutic, because imagine if you have not told things which occurred to you in your entire lifetime, and then you say it all, then it's letting it out, right? And
Right.
and my podcast is slightly different, because I don't do a Q&A in the normal sense. I ask them to come with a playlist of songs, and you tie
Oh,
your journey with the playlist of songs.
Oh, that is beautiful. What a great, interesting, unique way to approach that.
Yes.
That
And
is really interesting.
this unique format of this podcast is goes the credit goes to my son, the host I was talking to you about. Goes to him.
Yes,
He designed the format of this podcast, but I'm very happy because it's about real life people.
that sounds fascinating. I'm definitely going to check it out, and I assume it's available on Spotify and Apple and
Yes,
Google and all
Apple,
the
this thing.
regular.
You just have to look for Hangout with Sujata and you'll find it.
Hang out with Sujata. And again, I'll include all of your links and contact information. So, if the audience could walk away with just one big takeaway from all of your work, your body of work, as well as your books, what would you hope it would be?
It would be that, no matter how bad a situation is, you always have a choice. And you must exercise that choice for nobody but yourself. So it all gets tied down with but yourself to be yourself.
Right. Again,
That's a good
authentic
one, right?
authenticity.
Yourself
That's
to
a
be
good one.
yourself. I quite like that, but as you can see, it just came out. It was
Yeah.
not something practiced or rehearsed.
Better
But
write it down so I don't forget.
yes, exactly. But now
Oh
it's
well, we
recorded.
have it here on video, so we'll be okay.
Yeah. But
I take
that's what I would say, because life, if you have to encompass life and how to deal with life, I think that's the way to do.
just be true to yourself and again, authenticity, yeah?
And for yourself, you owe that to you. We are always doing things for others, but what about ourselves?
That's true. That's an excellent point. Well, Sujata, I think I want to wrap it up here. We've taken enough of your time
No,
and
no,
you've
my pleasure.
you've imparted so many beautiful stories and knowledge. I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself with us here at Guild of Life TV, and I look forward to meeting up with you or seeing you, speaking with you
Yes,
again.
yes. Thank you so much for inviting me and letting me speak.
Thank you again. Thank you, Sujata.
Layer a soft, pulsing rhythm of hand drums. Think djembe and cajon over a